Hello, everybody. Hello, the Drunkduck people. This is the Drunkduck Quackcast number 738. Okay, so I did list the wrong number on the Patreon video. Oh well, what can you do?
Oh boy. Those lists of episodes are going to be all mixed up.
I know, it's damaged for life. That's it. We'll have to start again from zero bones. So
I just think of the fans and their notebooks are going to be all
exactly. You know, the whole website that follows us along, the Reddit, the wiki, it's all damaged irreparably. We'll have to just delete ourselves from the internet.
You first have to post an apology where you cry and admit that you have made a terrible error and it's a testament to your lack of organization. And then get to collapse.
So today we're talking about ensemble casts, aren't we, guys? That's what we're chatting about. Mm-hmm. We're talking about a core ensemble cast of a group of characters, you know, like not talking about the entire ensemble like you would do if you were talking about a TV show when, you know, the ensemble cast is basically all the actors who are regularly in a thing. No, we're talking about like the core ensemble cast, like, you know, the group of 3 friends or whatever, or 2 friends, or 5 people who commonly interact with each other and, you know, go off on adventures or have rub off on each other the wrong way and friction and all that kind of stuff. So that is what we're talking about. And we're going to go deep into that subject using TV shows and movies as examples, but, you know, talking about our comics. So, but before we get into that, we have a featured comic that Quai the Cuxley is going to tell us about called Starry Ladders. So, Quai, tell us about Starry Ladders.
Starry Ladders.
Hello, this is Quai de Coxey, and the feature I've selected for this week is The Starry Ladders by Helter Skelter, 1995, and it is rated T for teen. Norristown, Pennsylvania, April 22nd, 1989. It is a sad day for Simon and no fun being a member of a Clockwork Orange parody band, Durango 95, with the rowdy, crowded audiences that would have booed Bowie in Cleveland. Durango 95 is heading into a breakup. Simon reunites at a diner with an old friend, Barnabas Swain, when a familiar song, performed by Swain's former band on the radio, sends Barnabas into a river of melancholic nostalgia. This is a team collaboration comic with Pinup Citizen responsible for the art and Helter Skelter in charge of writing. Receive life advice from a supportive father figure and read The Starry Ladders by Helter Skelter, 1995, rated T.
That was Quai telling us about Starry Ladders, which is an interesting name for a webcomic. Okay, so next up we have the featured music. Gumball has given us a theme to a comic called Plague Rat. I featured that comic a while ago. And now he has done a theme to it. It is a very dark, heavy and serious intro. It leads up into a beat-heavy, 80s-inspired cool dance number that just drags you along and up, out of the doldrums of the post-apocalyptic disaster of a plague-ridden sad world into the coloured lights and cool vibes of the dance floor. So get up and dance to Plague Rat. Presented by Gumwallis. No, presented by me, done by Gumwallis. How's that? Okay. was Gumbles with the Plague Rats. Okay, so Plague Rat was a cool comic by Rabbit Dance, and it's rated T for teen, and it is really cool. I love it. It really has like an academy an academy manga kind of an influence, or anime influence to it. You know how people go to a magic school or something like that, and they learn and sort of helps them to deal with something else that happened in their lives. It has that kind of feel to it, so it's cool. But this isn't about Plague Rat. This is about our topic of ensemble casts. An ensemble cast. So to provide you a good example of this, sitcoms commonly do this, where you have an ensemble and of core characters, and they regularly interact, and a lot of the story is often based on tensions and comedy between the characters, but also when they team up against other common enemies or situations that they're going to go through. So a great example is any sitcom, but say Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where you have your beautiful little core ensemble cast there of the main characters. Right now I can't remember who they all are. They're all funny characters. I love them. But yeah, they all complement each other in various ways, and there's tension between them. Sorry, Ben?
Go ahead.
Oh,
No,
tension between them, and the things that happen between them. But sometimes two of them team up against the rest, and three of them team up against the rest, and they do all kinds of things. And basically, an ensemble cast means you can come up with new stories and new kind of ideas and plots and stuff based on just the different personalities of those characters and the way they would interact with each other, and also the different ways they would approach different situations as well. So it almost writes itself, Writing different characters with different personalities can be incredibly hard, especially to differentiate them from one another. But what can be even harder is coming up with different plots and different ways ahead that your characters can go. And because you've got so many, an ensemble cast makes that a lot easier, because they've got their inbuilt ways of reacting to things and dealing with things in different ways. So at least it gives you an easier way forward. Once you've sort of created those characters and had them differentiate from each other, enough, then it gets a bit easier. So yeah, it's a good approach to go in. It's not only used in comedies, of course, but comedies are a very, very significant example.
Yeah. Or you could have like a drama, like look at Lord of the Rings.
Of course, a classic team there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And you've got like mini teams within that team.
Exactly what I was going to say. So absolutely. I also find that often, at least for me, when I write ensemble casts, they are fascinating to watch assemble. Like, not necessarily, I mean, yeah, absolutely, you could have them from the get-go already assembled, the team of characters that already are together for whatever reason, and then they start off on the goal of the plot, whatever that is, or they just interact with each other, sitcom style. But often the plot might be this cast assembling. So you start off with maybe like a character or a couple of characters, and then people come in and join under different circumstances.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Avengers, great example. Action drama where characters do that.
Airbender, another one.
you told me you were going to bring up that example.
There's no way to avoid it.
I don't think Star Wars counts though as a proper ensemble cast. I mean, I know you've got like Leia and Han Solo and Luke and Obi-Wan and C-3PO and R2-D2, but they don't really feel like an ensemble cast. They just feel like people who are just happen to be interacting, but they're not going to stay together.
Maybe in Return of the Jedi, Jedi, it feels that way. Like they are already assembled. They go to Endor and all of that. They are already a team, and they have their different things that they're doing, and they interact with each other and they save each other, blah blah blah.
But say
All that.
Luke
Right.
is off doing totally different Luke things
Yeah,
to the
that's true.
rest. So yeah, it's okay.
It's like, do you remember like a Saturday morning cartoon of the late 80s, early 90s, somewhere around there? Silver Rider and the Star Sheriffs, where you have this one dude, it's like a space cowboys, a
I do
space.
know it. I didn't watch very much.
Yeah, I used to watch it because it was before Thundercats over here. So I had to watch it. um, but you what you had was this one dude that was a bit separate from the group, the Silver Rider, and then you had the Star Sheriffs that were the color guys, the red cowboy, blue cowboy, green cowboy, and girl, pink cowboy.
Oh,
Um,
jeez.
so the ensemble cast was the Star Sheriffs, and then you had also the guy that he wasn't necessarily their leader, but he was the dude that came to help when they were uh, in trouble
Yeah.
or something. At least the way I remember it. So Luke is.
Oh, okay. Was that the main character? Was that guy the main character, or was it
I would
mostly an
argue.
ensemble?
I would argue that the main character was the red cowboy more than the silver guy, because
Oh,
he was the leader of the Star Sheriffs. He was the one that had the girl, and he also was the one that made all the important choices and had to keep the team together. And he was also, the guy that got everything correct all the time. So
right.
I think that he was the main character more than anything. So
That reminds me of a very
Yeah.
specific thing. So there's another cartoon that's quite similar, Galaxy Rangers, where you have a bunch of, I don't know, like 4 or 5 different police officers, like space police officers, who go and sort out different issues, but they're based on a sort of a Western idea. So they're all like cowboy kind of rangers. Star Sheriffs, exactly the same kind of thing.
yeah.
But the interesting point is, even though there's an ensemble cast and they do stuff together and they do stuff in their own ways based on their own personalities and stuff like that, there's also this thing where okay, so this story is going to be mainly based around this particular character of the group, and then this episode is going to be based on this particular thing. So that character drives it as the core character, so they become the main character for that episode. And you learn
Right.
more about the character and how they interact with stuff, and maybe a bit of their past or any stuff like that. Or just
Yeah.
because everything focuses around them, and the other characters become secondary, or in the B plot or whatever, and they support that character in their story. And this is often done in TV shows. Like they'll do that same kind of thing with an ensemble cast. They'll take turns focusing on different characters. Baines, I think you do that in Typical Strange. You deliberately focus on a different character for what you're going to do with the
Yeah,
story.
it'll be a different character or a couple of characters will be the main in each story. I guess. Yeah, a lot like Star Trek: The Next Generation, or most sitcoms. or at least a lot of sitcoms will do that.
Mm.
This is a story about the father, and the other characters are still there, but like mainly something they're struggling with, or the whatever one of the daughters has this issue.
I mean, like I know often the stories will do that. They'll kind of like switch around between them and give this character a chance to shine. But sometimes the stories will just completely focus on that character, and like they'll give them turns. Like say I remember there was this great sitcom News Radio which I loved, starring Dave Foley, great Canadian guy from Kids in the Hall, and Joe Rogan was in that too. That's where he got his start. But anyway, great show, and that had a big ensemble cast of all these different actors, and it deliberately took turns to focus on, like, it would basically give this character an entire show, and it would just be on that one main character, and you'd learn so much more. It would give so much more depth to that character, and I think each character had 2 episodes throughout the run of it, except for the black lady who played another newsreader. She never got an episode because the writers, they reckon they didn't know how to write a black lady, as if she's not a human, like as if she didn't experience a daily process like every other character.
See, I wonder where they could find someone to advise them.
Yes, I wonder. It's a mystery. Impossible task.
Like, where could they possibly find the black lady?
So unfortunately, she left the show because she never got the focus. Unfortunately, so that's a mark against it. But apart from that, it really did sort of go deeply into those characters. So it wasn't just switching between giving people different turns or going in different directions. It was full thing. Sorry, go on.
Another thing that I have seen as a pattern, especially in older cartoons and stuff, where you have an established team, an established core ensemble. Often they wanted to showcase why every single member was important by having that member either out of commission in some way, or or they have like a fallout and that other person leaves, like breaks away from the team for whatever reason. And so usually you have the remaining team basically malfunctioning. Like there is a gap that cannot be easily filled by this, from this guy, this person, this character leaving. And at the same time, the person that is going it alone now finds trouble because they don't have the others to lean on in order to be able to handle certain situations. And after they go through, their parallel trials and tribulations, they basically converge again and make up. And now we know why this guy is important, for example. And usually that was with characters that are not obviously very important. Like you have like the weak guy or the weak girl or the heart, for example, like the person that is the glue that keeps everybody together but doesn't, like, is not at the front line beating people up or whatever, or that sort of character.
Marty and what was that show? Marty in the Captain Planet. There we go. Heart.
Oh,
that was his power. Heart. Sorry, Tans.
But that's right. And I have to say that if we had continued with Brave Resistance, because we had planned 3 volumes with Pitface, didn't happen. It's all right. The first volume was like it wrapped up nicely with a bow tie. I'm going to upload the script one of these days when I get time and I remember that I can do this. So because I want to anyone who's curious to see how that would have ended in the first volume. But in the second volume, because it is basically an ensemble cast, doesn't look it necessarily right now, but you had Nikos and you had Hunter, the American guy that is also Native American. And then you had also Maria, the nurse, and Sophia, that is basically Nikos's fiancée. But nobody dares to mention that because they are not people that they're very private people. So this is the ensemble cast basically, and in the second volume, something happens that makes the team unable to function, and everything falls apart in this entire resistance cell because the fact that these people cannot function as they used to in the first volume creates a myriad of issues because it's basically, let's destroy the core of this nicely functioning ideal resistance cell village.
Right.
Let's see what happens, and everybody turns on everybody else. It's fascinating, but it is like the Empire Strikes Back Volume 2 sort of resistance. And then you have the third volume where everything picks up again and follows to Liberation Day. So that was the plan.
Right.
But yeah, it was fascinating to see how normal things that you would expect these characters to do. For example, Nikos rely on Hunter to pick him up, then having Maria organize everything for him. All of that falls apart and nothing works, even though you have very capable people still around. So
Yeah.
Well, that is a fascinating insight into that because we didn't talk about Brave Resistance in the video, did we?
mm-hmm.
Oh, so this is a new aspect.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like someone should keep bugging or like remind me to at least upload the script so that at least the story is complete, even if it's not illustrated. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, so Kaiju Valentine is starting to become an ensemble cast.
Yeah, totally.
It wasn't initially though. I mean,
Yeah, I
two
guess
characters
so.
don't make an ensemble.
No. And that's really what it began as. Obviously, it's the couple. It's Max and Minnie. They're the main characters, so not an ensemble. But yeah, the cast has grown, and we haven't seen Minnie in quite a while.
Yeah, like
Since
you've got.
by the nature of webcomics, only a couple pages at a time. So we'll get back to her as soon as we can. But, yeah.
So who have we got so far? We've got what's the name? It starts with an A. It's not
Well,
Adela.
it's Alina.
Alina, that's it. Alina, who's my new favorite character. Like she's replaced Minnie as the main favorite
Right.
in the cast. She's cool because
She's
okay,
a feisty one.
I like her because her motivations are so jagged and impure. She is someone who is she's not a good character. I mean, no, she's not. She's a good character, but she's not a good person. That's what I mean. And I really like that because that means every path that she takes is very interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
She's the type of character that you love, not to hate necessarily. I don't think that she warrants hate yet. But she definitely is the one that you want to slap around and you love
Yeah.
that. So excellent.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Mm.
Yeah.
Those kind of spiky characters have a lot.
Yeah.
a lot to
Yeah.
them, more than any other characters. So yeah, she has become a good fave.
That's great. I mean, I guess I hope with her that people will at least some of the time be saying, "Come on, Alina," or like, "Oh my God, I hate her," or "Oh my
Yeah.
God, she's great," or
Right.
"She's funny," or "Come on, do the right thing," or something like that. You're not quite
And,
sure what she's doing.
and you know she will not do the right thing. At least not at first.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I just love that
Mm.
unpredictability too. Well, I mean, she's unpredictable in that you don't know if she's going to do the right thing or not.
Mm-hmm.
If her motivations really coincide with what Max wants, or is it all down to just pure selfishness, or is she really does she really like Max, or is she only liking Max because Minnie likes Max? That kind of stuff.
right, yeah, exactly.
Or does she want to piss Minnie off? What is her thing, or has she become obsessed with Max now? That's fascinating.
Yeah, there. I mean, I gotta say, I like some ambiguity with that kind of thing. It's nice to have that
I like it. I like the
uncertainty.
her little friend with the pink hair too. Little skinny friend with the
Me
pink
too.
hair. Because she's just
Yeah,
weird looking.
she came out a little weirder looking than I intended, but yeah, I like her too.
Yeah, that's cool. And you'd think she would have a really high voice or something to really distinguish her. That would go with that look. She'd be a bit wacky. She'd be the wacky, funny one.
Right. She's got the crazy pink hair, and her name is Loopy, or at least her nickname is Loopy. But she kind of pulls other people down to earth. I think. At least that's how I see her so far.
Okay.
She's got her feet on the ground a little better.
And then a newer character to the cast has been. Oh, there's a couple, but who's the fat guy? He's got like a name like Idaho or something. I can't remember. Like a Danish or Denmark. I can't remember. He's got some.
His name is Oslo.
I knew it. Oh, Denmark,
Oslo.
Oslo. I knew there was a
Yeah, yeah.
relationship somewhere.
Denmark. His last name is Denmark.
So he's a new addition. He's definitely part of the ensemble, I would say. So and he's nice.
Yeah,
because
he's a guy who was pining for Minnie, like Max and Minnie. They're a couple, and Oslo kind of pining for Minnie. But I think there's more to him, if I may say so. I don't know. It's my comment. I'll say there seems to be a little more to him now. I'm kind of liking him a little more personally.
But he's friendly
Um,
and he kind of envies Max in a way. He's like looks up to him as a kind of hero, which I find hilarious.
yeah,
It's like, oh my god,
yeah.
Max, I can't believe. So that's just gorgeous. So yeah, you have a good little ensemble in that
Nice.
has developed because they didn't come fully formed like we said. It started as a couple and then it expanded slowly. So that's
Yeah, it took a while to bring them in to play, and it wasn't planned. I have ideas of where things are going vaguely, but I don't really plan this comic. Kind of
It
figuring it
doesn't.
out as I go.
It does not show, which is excellent.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying like every page I have no idea what's going to happen on the next page. I do have an idea of where things
Yeah.
are headed. You have to some degree.
No,
Yeah.
I get it. I get
Oh, that's great.
exactly how that works, and it works really well for
Yeah,
your.
of course. Yeah.
yeah, it is a damn cool comic.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course we have
Thank you, guys.
Verdants, but
Yeah.
there's an ensemble. If there is an
Lovely.
ensemble, it's not really obvious yet.
No, it's not. It's not there yet. It's basically an ensemble coming together story for now, in the sense that we start off with Ethan and Avilla, the little witch, the girl witch, and and then we are going to have characters come in and become part of the ensemble. So yeah, the blind guy, Gian, is going to be part of that, but they are not yet. And he has his flower lady that I really like. She is not like, her personality is such that you don't get to see her often. Um, but my planning, if it works, I hope it does, is that whenever you see her, she is extremely impressive on the page. Um, so yeah, there is an ensemble cast that is forming, but for now we have all the background happening. Like, we don't yet have our story. It's why we are where we are, and once everything is worked through, then we're going to have the plot of the now, if that makes sense. We're still in the flashback.
Yeah, it's still the world is still coming together. We're still learning
Yeah.
so much about the
Thank
magic
you.
and the larger world and like all these various characters. It's really neat so far and beautifully drawn as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Um, because I did take a risk in doing this entire thing in flashback instead of going linearly. But what I wanted to show so many, because you have a completely new world, right? That all the world building has to be shown, not told, all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, the reason I chose to do the flashback was to basically get people immersed enough in the world and then be able to focus on the characters that quote unquote matter. Everybody matters.
Mm.
The Corvid guy matters a lot, um, and a few others that we're going to see in a couple of pages. But yeah, there is going to be an ensemble cast, definitely, but it's not formed yet, and they are going to be sort of together but apart in certain ways, because the despotate versus the witches. The witches have a conclave. We don't know that yet, but they are not as hippies as they look right now. So
Yeah,
uh, yeah, they are not like, nobody is absolutely correct. Nobody is absolutely wrong
Yeah.
in the two sides. So I wanted to show that and then get the story going. So
Oh, it should work out very well.
yes.
Yes.
thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, if you can see like more complexity on all sides, yeah, then we can sort of try to. Yeah, it's very good. It's very. I can't wait to see more of the witches. I mean, when you
Honestly,
told us about this comic from the beginning, it's like it's about witches. So I'm definitely excited to see more
yeah. There's
of their world.
they 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 have so much that I haven't shown yet, and I also have to keep figuring out how to draw them because they are, these fusion people basically. Uh,
Yeah,
so yeah, I really look forward to showcasing more of it, which is upcoming after this entire action sequence is complete. We get to see more of their power structure and how they are handling things on their side.
yeah,
So
exactly. It is a process
yeah, fantastic.
mm,
worked up into. Well,
yeah,
did I talk about Pinky Tia in this particular cast? I don't think I did.
yeah. Now is the
No,
time to talk about Pinky.
absolutely.
All right. Well, in Pinky Dink, we have no ensemble cast until chapter 6, when suddenly we do. Suddenly, it's all there, created.
Yeah, we cut to a big group. Is it the
Yeah.
right chapter I'm thinking of? We cut to like a large
Well, a
group
group of 4 people
together.
all in a tank
Yeah.
together,
Huge group of 4.
and we go from
In a
there,
tank, yeah.
which is rather interesting. So the story is basically, instead of Pinky against the world, it's Pinky against a group, and the group acting together, facing their challenges, which is a different thing for me. It was a bit of an experiment. It started out as a short story that I wrote, and then I turned it into a comic, and it worked really well. And that's probably my favorite chapter in the whole comic. It was really good to have that ensemble, and then after that ensemble kind of story, I took a break from that into chapter 7, and we had like Pinky and Ace, the story between these 2 characters. It was mainly a Pinky story just on her, but then 8, for chapter 8, which is the final chapter that I've worked on, it was sort of back to an ensemble cast again, even slightly bigger. And it felt really good to spread things out and work on different characters. So that's another advantage to having an ensemble cast. You can get a bit fatigued if you're just working on one particular character, because you're in their head and you're thinking how they think, and you're sort of thinking how they would approach something. Now, if you expand to more characters, you can have a little bit of time to experiment and think a lot more, I don't know, in different directions, different ways that you wouldn't have done before. You can get in a bit of a rut if you're just focusing on one character, but if you've got more characters to focus on, you can expand. You don't have to be in that rut anymore. It sort of gives you a chance to experiment with the way different people think, or approach, just assign this particular character a different internal philosophy, and just go with how that character would think, because you'd never assign your main character that particular internal philosophy. So that gives you new options.
Yeah.
So then.
Yeah, other people who see the world completely differently. Like whether we see them like go up against the main character regularly or not. It's just they have a whole different view on the world, and it builds things up.
I really liked how, like, all of them being completely different people, and not everyone like most. I think most did not really like Pinky, at least at first. Um, and I really liked how eventually towards the end they ended up actually being a real team, and working together, whether or not they liked each other as a person. And that was great to watch.
Oh yeah. Oh, thanks, guys. Yeah, it made it offered me a chance to show Pinky, yes, from different angles, and so not just her own opinion of herself or someone who doesn't like her. It was the opinion of co-workers, which was a different aspect, different perspective. Yeah, so that's some of the things that ensemble casts can do. Let's think. Did I bring up the example of Seinfeld in this audio cast, or was it only on the video?
No.
It was on Patreon.
Well, okay, Seinfeld is a fantastic example, I think, of a good classic ensemble cast. I think ensemble casts have always sort of been a thing, but that's really the first time I noticed it as a viewer of things. Obviously, it was done before, like on MASH or a million other TV shows and things. Like Three Musketeers is a classic ensemble, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I mean, would an ensemble be more than 2 main characters?
I would tend to think so.
Yeah.
It's like 2 points always make a straight line.
Something like your right.
But it's only one dimensional.
So you have your family comedies or dramas, and your workplace comedies or dramas.
Yeah.
Your group of friends or whatever.
Exactly. Well, like I said, Three Musketeers is a good example. So you've got at least three characters who work together, have their different ways of doing things. But yeah. So in Seinfeld, you have very distinct, different personalities that work together and work apart in various ways. Say MASH is an ensemble cast. Sure, you've got these characters like the antagonist character and the friendly character and the dumbass and the comic relief and all this kind of stuff, but they weren't really as distinct. And then you've got, say, Hogan's Heroes. That's a really old sitcom these days, I suppose, but you have distinct personalities, but they weren't really distinct in you wouldn't look at any of these characters as main characters. Hogan is your main character, and the rest of them are sort of just follow what he wants to do. Whereas, say, and the same with MASH as well. But so then you go to like Seinfeld. Any of those characters are the main character. It's not just Jerry. I think that's what distinguishes a real ensemble.
Yeah, and like Seinfeld, once Seinfeld got going, really got rolling, a couple seasons in maybe, it was usually 4 stories. So every character has a story. Which, oh my god, like the writing challenge that must have been, like to figure out a story. 4 stories for most episodes.
And one would be the main story, and the others would be not so main. But
yeah, to some degree, and then a lot of times they would kind of come together at the end, or sometimes there'd be just 2 stories or whatever, or the characters are just, it's a Jerry story, but you see him and George bouncing off each other, to figure out whatever was going on.
And that to me is a real kind of working ensemble, because it's not, because it means that it becomes stronger for this whole bunch of very very strong characters. It can work really strongly just centered around one character, or it can work really strongly with all of the characters together, or 2 of the characters, 3 of the characters, or whatever. You can mix and match. Whereas those earlier things I mentioned, they couldn't do that. MASH and Hogan's Heroes, and earlier examples, they didn't have that flexibility. It was just a group cast rather than an ensemble. I mean, this isn't a scientific definition. It's not a very clever definition. It's just one that I'm making up to make this point. But after Seinfeld, then you have a lot more things that did this. Friends and News Radio and like a million other things. Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Like, everything was doing this. But, I mean, not everything was doing. Say Ellen. Ellen is an example of a 90s sitcom that wasn't doing that. Was still focused around the main character, Ellen. With these other characters being subsidiary, but never really main, working up to a position of, like, being able to carry the story. That never happened in Ellen. But, yeah. What do you reckon about my weird point that I'm making? Is it valid?
I have never seen Seinfeld,
okay.
so I really cannot say it.
Might be worth checking out.
I mean, the main, what would be the main point of that? Like, vis-a-vis Seinfeld, it's like, what's your hypothesis?
Well, my hypothesis is when Seinfeld came along, then you had your ensemble cast where any of the characters could be the main character. So, or they could work as a team. It was far more flexible. Whereas in the old days, when you had a group cast, the dynamics was kind of fixed. You had, okay, this is the main character, this guy here. This is the antagonist. This is this person. But they don't have like a story based around this character, or a story based around this character. You know what I mean? Or separate stories, like you were saying. It's usually, okay, we put the group together and this is how they handle the situation.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like for sure that show. Like I said, you would often see 4 different stories. Not always, but often. It would be a pretty tight little story. Obviously, a couple of scenes for each character. Sometimes you'd have to share. Like they would all come together and they're all dealing with, oh, this is what's happening so far. Yeah, that might be something. Think of like Cheers, where it was really about Sam and Diane. But then it would, I think maybe later in the series, it would split off to other characters more. I don't remember it well enough.
It did a bit. It didn't really go strongly into it, but it did a bit of that. Like,
yeah. And then like Family Ties, say, which I loved back in the day. You'd have a bigger story and then a subplot. Subplot was a lighter little thing, like a chess game between 2 characters, and it was usually a sillier little fun story. Then the bigger story would have more emotion. And that would vary. You know, it would be a big Alex story or a big story about one of the parents or both of the parents. And then the subplot would be something with the kids or vice versa.
it would be, but it was always...
And it kind of formulaic, where it'd be a main story and a subplot.
Yeah, it was always mainly a Michael J. Fox story, though, I would think.
Right. Well, when they first started, it was mainly the parents. And then, it kind of changed.
And so, like, a Family Matters sort of started out as an ensemble cast, and then it became an Urkel story.
Yeah.
Urkel and the dad, whatever his name was.
Yeah, it'd be them together. That was an hard show.
Oh, bloody hell. Mouse has burst into my room and he's shouting at me. No, you're not allowed out. Yeah, I mean, it's a weird point that I'm making about this characters, but yeah, I think it holds up. I think it does. And I think that's a great way to approach ensemble stories when you have an ensemble cast, to be able to do that, to make it so that they're all absolutely main characters. Like, you don't have to do that, but it's a good way to do it, because it gives you more options about where to go, instead of just having your one main character like Pinky, and then having other characters that kind of support that, and take away the focus sometime. But if you have a group of characters that could all be main characters, then wow. Say, look at Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is such an awesome comedy. The way those characters can each become main characters means the story can go in totally different directions because of that. Like, wildly different. It can be a totally different kind of a show depending on which character is the main character for that story. So
yeah, that show definitely, and Seinfeld as well. Like, you could say Jerry is the star; it's his name on the show. But it was really all 4 of them, and It's Always Sunny. Definitely, you don't look at that and say, "Oh, this person is the main character." That's definitely an ensemble. Like,
yeah, you'd never be able to do that.
So it's all.
So yeah, that's a fantastic example. Oh my goodness me. What about dramas? Well, okay, so the Avengers, we sort of do have that in the Avengers, which is a very, very popular example. Because none of them are meant to be more superior than the other. I mean, the leader is Captain America, but you don't think of him as the main person in that group. It's you've got the Hulk and the Scarlet. No, she's not Scarlet. She's whatever she is. The red Black Widow. There we are. Black Widow. She has red hair, but she's a Black Widow. That's it. Something to do with the color. So yeah, you got the Arrow guy, Hawkeye, and Jesus, ages since I saw this. It's not Wonder Woman and Superman, is it? That's a different thing. You have people together working together doing stuff. Oh, there we are.
Since we were talking about drama, yes, Law and Order, SUV.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. You got the Ice-T character and the Belzer.
Yeah, and the main, yeah, like they are the core cast, and they all have their own thing that they do. And I mean, most of these shows that are whodunits, basically, or get the bad guy in prison shows, um, are basically ensemble casts.
True.
They are regulars. They are a team. They do a like Bones, for example. What was the other one?
Castle.
Uh, yeah, Castle, and
Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That's very much like that. Oh wow.
yeah, Grimm starts off with the brothers, but there's also like this ensemble cast of different
Yeah.
creatures, people
Star
that are
Trek
victims,
does as well. Baines, I think you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Definitely. So the Star Trek Next Generation, which was in the 90s. So that was the sequel to the original series. And like the original series wasn't really that, didn't it had a group cast, but they weren't really that kind of ensemble. You couldn't really say, okay, so Bones is the main character this time or Spock is the main. It was always like a team. But say in Star Trek The Next Generation, it really is that kind of ensemble in that, yeah, sure, they're a team, but this is mainly focused around Geordi, or this episode is mainly focused around Crusher, or whoever else, and any one of them can carry it.
Yeah, I've seen
Sorry.
for sure. Like, once it kind of came together, the writing came together, and they figured out the show. That's what they would do. Like they would kind of usually focus on one character, who would be the one who has it's from their point of view, or they have the sort of emotional arc, or if it's not a really emotional story, it's you kind of stay with one character. That helps. It helps you focus in on a human being or a character as all this stuff is going on. I think a lot of the early episodes were kind of the whole ship. There's some kind of crisis, and the whole crew deals with this crisis. You see a bunch of scenes. Of course, the captain is Picard is the main character, but Picard, Riker, Data maybe, and
I think
they would move around.
on the bridge are the main characters. I would say.
Yeah.
There's the Betazoid lady as well, and Crusher. They're main, just as main.
Yeah. They're all title characters. I think you'd see the show focused usually on Picard, Data, maybe Riker. Then you'd have your Worf stories. You'd have your Jordan stories.
You'd have ones focused totally on
Crusher stories.
What was it? Crusher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking of like the latest Star Trek, Lower Decks.
Yeah.
And something.
That follows that classic Seinfeld thing, where any character is the main character in that one.
Yeah, and they are all equals in the group, in the sense that they are all equally important. And Mariner maybe is sort of the leader, but she's not really the leader. Anyone can pull the team towards an adventure or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, initially it was that duo, so it was Boimler and Mariner. And you're sort of thinking, it's going to be either one of these two. You got the main boy and the main girl. But then it expanded beautifully, especially in later seasons, to be all of them being equal. So you can't look at it and say Mariner's the main character. She's not, because they're all main characters now, which is really, really good. I like that. Mouse agreed. Yeah, he thinks he's the main character.
Yeah.
It's that is cool. I mean, you have subsidiary characters, you know, the captain and the first officer and all this kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, the lower decks ensigns, at least that's how they began, are now all the main characters that you look at. So, ensemble, that's a great example, Tance, of a great ensemble cast that work together really well, and it strengthens the show and adds a lot more interest, because it's way more interesting now than it was in those first couple of episodes where it was Mariner and Boimler. That was just didn't work as well as it does now. You've got all of them.
Yeah.
Because not only have you got all these different like options to follow, as you know, oh, I like this character, I like that character. You can think when you watch the show, oh, which character is the show going to focus on now? Wow, I want to see what more happens with this particular character, or goes into this particular aspect of what this particular character does, and that makes it really interesting.
Yeah.
You get really bored when a show just focuses on what the main character does, when it has a main character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, especially in a world of binge watching, and like watching multiple episodes, might have been different decades ago. You know, where you're only seeing one a week.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it's too formulaic and too much the same.
Exactly.
Gotta shout out DS9 as well. I'm still rewatching. They would shift around even more than Next Generation, and closer to Lower Decks maybe. Or they had a huge cast, and you'd have episodes where the quote unquote main characters didn't even appear. And you would just be with, you know, the Ferengi bartender and his what's going on in his world, or just Odo in some investigation. And you barely see anyone else, and they would do that regularly.
Yeah, because it's awesome.
I even like. No, I even like the episode where it was the upper decks. Like, they take away
That's
all.
right.
They take away all the main cast to do something else that I don't remember. They are off screen for whatever reason, and then disaster strikes, and the upper deckers are the ones that have to deal with chaos in the ship, and it's
And you
done.
see them a lot more than you ever do in the rest of the series.
Mhm.
That's really neat. Yeah. It's like the opposite of like Next Generation originally did an episode called Lower Decks, and that's the one that, you know, the Lower Decks series was named after it. It's not the same characters, obviously. In the Next Generation episode, you see these four characters. I think some of them, maybe one of them, you'd seen before. She was a nurse that worked with Dr. Crusher, but the whole episode was focused on these four lower deckers and like everything from their point of view. And you saw the regular crew just kind of as side characters, and really cool. So then Lower Decks, the show, did the opposite with their Upper Decks episode. Very, very nice. I hope that made sense.
I think it does.
Yeah, it does. I mean, to me, it did. Yeah.
I think it does. Well, this has been an interesting and cool Quackcast, an interesting focus on ensembles. I think we're an ensemble because any one of us can be the main character. Sorry, Tom. I'm just talking over you.
Yeah. I mean, this is another thing that we do as an ensemble cast. We talk over each other. But yeah, we are an ensemble cast.
So it's bye-bye from our ensemble.
Bye-bye.
We're a jazz ensemble.
Oh, God. Just hands.